two of the most powerful institutions in global finance are both connected to Stellar right now, and most XLM holders have been treating that as one story when it is actually two completely different stories that benefit them in two completely different ways. Understanding both is the difference between knowing you hold XLM and knowing why you hold it. So this video is going to do something most comparison videos refuse to do. It is going to score the DTCC and BlackRock across 5 specific dimensions and declare which institution benefits XLM holders more, not which one sounds more impressive in a headline, which one actually moves the needle for the people holding XLM right now. Let's start with the facts on both sides, because the comparison only works if both institutions are presented with the same level of precision. BlackRock's BUIDL fund had grown to about $2.4 billion in assets under management by Q2 2026. BlackRock also filed for 2 additional tokenized funds during May 2026 and proposed on-chain shares for a $7 billion money market fund. Stellar currently accounts for about 13% of the broader real-world asset market. That translates to roughly $4.16 billion worth of tokenized assets connected to the Stellar network. $4.16 billion in tokenized assets on Stellar. And BUIDL has expanded beyond Ethereum, and Stellar is now one of the supported blockchains. The DTCC processes securities transactions for much of the United States financial system. During May 2026, it announced Stellar as the first public blockchain connected to its tokenization platform. Production deployment began during July 2026, with broader participation expected during October 2026. 2 institutions, 2 confirmed connections to Stellar, 2 fundamentally different mechanisms through which they benefit XLM holders. Now, the scoring dimension, 1, volume certainty. Which institution creates more certain and more measurable transaction volume on the Stellar network for XLM holders? DTCC, the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, processed securities transactions valued at $4.7 quadrillion in annual settlement volume. The DTCC selected the Stellar network to pilot the tokenization of its colossal $114 trillion asset repository. When DTCC tokenization scales to any meaningful percentage of its settlement volume, the transaction count on Stellar becomes enormous. Every tokenized securities trade that settles on Stellar requires XLM for the transaction fee. The volume certainty for DTCC is high because the DTCC's business is mandatory for most U.S. securities transactions. It is not optional infrastructure that institutions can choose to use or not use. It is the required clearinghouse. BlackRock BUIDL at $2.4 billion in AUM generates tokenized fund share transactions when institutional investors subscribe, redeem, or use BUIDL as collateral in DeFi protocols. Tokenized fund shares can settle transactions almost instantly instead of waiting the standard 1 to 2 business days. They can be traded around the clock and can be used as collateral in DeFi protocols. The volume from BUIDL is real and growing, but it is voluntary. Institutional investors choose to use BUIDL. They are not required to. And BlackRock's multi-chain strategy means BUIDL volume is spread across Ethereum, BNB chain, Solana, and Stellar simultaneously. Score on volume, certainty, DTCC wins. The mandatory nature of DTCC clearing creates more certain and more measurable transaction volume on the Stellar network than the voluntary adoption of BUIDL. But when DTCC tokenization goes live at full commercial scale in October, every firm that participates must route through DTCC infrastructure. BlackRock cannot make BUIDL mandatory for anyone. Dimension 2, timeline proximity. Which institution creates near-term benefits for XLM holders first? DTCC production deployment began July 2026, full commercial launch October 2026, 8 weeks away. The DTCC timeline is the most specific and most imminent confirmed institutional event for Stellar in its history. BlackRock BUIDL is already live and already on Stellar. The 13% Stellar RWA market share is happening right now. 2 new fund filings in May 2026 signal acceleration rather than experimentation. On May 8, 2026, BlackRock filed with the SEC for 2 new tokenized funds plus on-chain shares for a $7 billion money market. Fund signaling acceleration rather than experimentation. Score on timeline proximity. BlackRock wins. The benefits are already materializing. BUIDL is live. Stellar's 13% RWA market share. The DTCC's most significant volume comes after October and scales over years. BlackRock is generating Stellar network activity today. Dimension 3. Institutional domino effect. Which institutions? Involvement is more likely to trigger other major institutions to choose Stellar. DTCC, when Tier 2 and Tier 3 banks see the DTCC routing assets through Stellar, they will naturally migrate to the same network to maintain interoperability and reduce friction. Stellar is structurally positioning itself to become the standard institutional intranet for digital asset clearing. The DTCC selection of Stellar is not just a partnership, it is a standard signal. When the institution that clears most U.S. securities trades chooses a specific blockchain, every other institution in the U.S. securities ecosystem has an operational reason to ensure their own blockchain infrastructure is compatible with that choice. The domino effect from DTCC is structural and mandatory adjacent. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, choosing Stellar for BUIDL creates a different kind of domino. Every competing asset manager that watches BlackRock build a multi-billion-dollar tokenized fund business on Stellar asks the same question. Are we positioned on the right network for the next phase of tokenized asset management? BlackRock's dominance in traditional finance means its blockchain choices carry enormous signaling weight for the entire asset management industry. Score on institutional domino effect. Tie. DTCC creates mandatory adjacent operational pressure. On every U.S. securities market participant, BlackRock creates strategic competitive pressure on every asset management firm globally. Different mechanisms, equally powerful. Dimension 4. XLM Price Mechanism. Which institution creates more direct pressure on XLM's price? Specifically, DTCC settlement volume on Stellar generates transaction fees paid in XLM. High settlement volume from DTCC participants creates sustained daily demand for XLM to fund transaction fee accounts. The mechanism is direct. More DTCC settlement volume on Stellar means more daily XLM purchases by institutional participants. But there is the honest caveat. As established in previous analysis, neither DTCC nor the DTCC's communication partners have made any public mention of XLM Stellar's native token. In their official communications, the partnership is framed entirely around infrastructure and rails. Institutional participants can pre-fund XLM fee accounts with very small amounts to process large numbers of transactions. The per transaction fee demand at 0.0001 XLM is modest. BlackRock BUIDL. Operating on Stellar drives Stellar network activity. Every BUIDL transaction on Stellar requires XLM for fees, but BlackRock's institutional investors accumulating XLM. They are using BUIDL shares. The XLM fee demand from BUIDL volume is even more modest than from DTCC settlement volume per transaction. However, BlackRock's involvement creates a different price mechanism that is more powerful than the fee mechanism. The narrative legitimacy that BlackRock's presence creates attracts retail and institutional investment into XLM directly. When the world's largest asset manager is confirmed on a blockchain, that blockchain's native token gets repriced in every institutional model that includes it. Score on XLM Price Mechanism. BlackRock wins on narrative-driven price mechanism. DTCC wins on operational fee demand, but both are relatively modest compared to the repricing that either institution's formal confirmation triggers in the broader market. Dimension 5. Long-term value creation. Which institution creates more lasting and compounding value for XLM holders over a 3-5 year horizon? DTCC, a $100 billion tokenization market, would place about $13 billion worth of assets on Stellar if the network simply maintains its current market share. The overall RWA market has already grown beyond $32 billion. If DTCC tokenization scales toward 10% of its 4.7 quadrillion annual settlement volume and Stellar's maintains competitive positioning in that infrastructure, the long-term volume on Stellar is orders of magnitude larger than anything BlackRock's fund business alone could generate. So BlackRock is also exploring tokenized ETFs. The current ETF creation and redemption process involves authorized participants, transfer agents, custodians, and settlement windows that can stretch across days. Tokenized ETFs could compress that entire process into near real-time transactions on a blockchain. If BlackRock tokenizes even a fraction of its $13 trillion in AUM through on-chain fund products and Stellar remains a supported network, the long-term fund asset volume on Stellar becomes substantial. BUIDL became the first institutional-grade on-chain fund to reach more than $1 billion in assets under management and is now at nearly $2.5 billion. BlackRock has filed to launch a tokenized version of the BlackRock Select Treasury-based Liquidity Fund and BlackRock Daily Reinvestment Stablecoin Reserve Vehicle. Score on long-term value creation, DTCC wins. The addressable market from DTCC tokenization at scale dwarfs BlackRock's addressable market from fund tokenization. $4.7 quadrillion in annual settlement volume versus $13 trillion in AUM represents a fundamentally different scale of opportunity for Stellar's network activity. Now the scorecard, 5 dimensions, 2 institutions. Volume certainty, DTCC wins. Timeline proximity, BlackRock wins. Institutional domino effect, XLM price mechanism. Split long-term value creation. DTCC wins. Final verdict. DTCC benefits XLM holders more by the scoring. 2 clear wins, 1 tie, 1 split versus 1 clear win for BlackRock. But here is the most important thing. The scorecard reveals that the headline verdict misses. The 2 institutions are not competing for the same benefit. They're delivering different benefits on different timelines that together create a more complete institutional adoption story than either one alone could produce. BUIDL has expanded beyond Ethereum, and Stellar is now one of the supported blockchains. The analyst notes that Stellar does not need to replace Ethereum to benefit. Maintaining its place among institutional settlement networks could be enough if tokenization continues growing. Maintaining its place, that is the key phrase. Stellar does not need to win against Ethereum for BUIDL or against Canton network for DTCC. It needs to maintain its position as a confirmed, production-grade, compliance-embedded public blockchain in both institutional ecosystems simultaneously, which it has done, which is confirmed, which is already generating the 13% RWA market share that the $4.16 billion in tokenized Stellar assets represents. BlackRock delivers the now. BUIDL is live. 13% RWA shares current. 2 new fund filings in May signal continued acceleration. The price benefit from BlackRock is happening in the current period. DTCC delivers the scale. October full commercial launch. First half 2027. Stellar deployment. 4.7 quadrillion in annual settlement volume as the addressable market. The price benefit from DTCC is arriving in the coming period and compounding over years. XLM holders have been positioned for both simultaneously, not by choosing between them, by holding the asset that both institutions independently confirmed as part of their institutional blockchain infrastructure. You held XLM when BlackRock's BUIDL expansion beyond Ethereum included Stellar as a supported network. You held when BUIDL grew from $1 billion to $2.4 billion in AUM with Stellar in its multi-chain architecture. You held when DTCC announced Stellar as the first public blockchain in its tokenization strategy. You held when production deployment began July 2026. And you held while the RWA market grew from $6 billion to $32 billion, with Stellar accounting for $4.16 billion of that total. Both giants confirmed Stellar, what you were holding, on different timelines through different mechanisms with different scorecard results. The answer to which benefits you more depends on whether you are measuring today or measuring 2028. BlackRock delivers the institutional legitimacy today. DTCC delivers the settlement volume scale tomorrow. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing here constitutes financial, legal, or investment advice. Always do your own research and consult qualified professionals before making any financial decisions. If this video gave you the 5-dimension scorecard that most DTCCB's BlackRock analyses never build, hit the white button right now. That signal pushes this to XLM holders who have been watching both institutional developments without a framework for comparing what each one specifically contributes to their XLM position. Subscribe, because when DTCC's October full commercial launch happens and BlackRock files additional tokenized fund approvals and the Stellar RWA market share data updates for Q3 2026. This channel will rerun the scorecard with fresh numbers and show you exactly whether the verdict changed. And drop a comment with this. After seeing the 5-dimension scorecard, which institution do you personally believe matters more for your XLM position? And which specific dimension shifted your thinking? That debate is worth having in public right now. Share this with whoever in your circle holds XLM and has been treating the DTCC and BlackRock developments as one story. Instead of 2 different mechanisms delivering 2 different benefits, both giants confirmed Stellar on different timelines for different reasons, and both matter. Have a great day. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to join my free Telegram community with the link on my channel, where I post my daily crypto experience and arbitrage opportunities you can't get anywhere else. This is XRP Hobart signing off.